any project is the discovery at the beginning. And we start with a 30-minute conversation, right, of just talking about what are your needs, what's going on, what's your basic workflows, and then we dive in a lot deeper into
Yeah.
making sure that we understand everything. But it is my favorite part of the process, partly just because I like learning. And then you go and talk to them and you're like, there's so much more under the hood than I expected. And it's just so fun to learn about. Welcome to Tech Talks. My name's Lisa Holmquist. I'm a product manager here at In Time Tech. I've been here for about 2 years, almost 2 years. I'm a product manager for an internal product that we have for transparency in state government. We've recently implemented a lot of AI features, and we're doing a lot of other things in that space. And I'm here with Jeff Maughan. Do you want to introduce yourself?
I'd love to. Yeah. As Lisa said, my name is Jeff Maughan. I am a system architect here at In Time Tech. I've been here for 5.5 years. And in that time, I've been helping several different government agencies modernize their systems and bring their workflows and processes into the Power Platform. And so it's been a really fun adventure to kind of see what their old processes were and how we could improve them as we brought them into a more modern platform. So we're excited to talk about that today and share a little bit more about how we made some of the decisions along the way.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this discussion because I feel like we talk about this a lot. So it'll be good to dive in a little deeper and just understand a little bit more of what Power Platforms is capable of and different options that exist within it. So today we're going to talk about kind of the differences between off-the-shelf, custom, and hybrid solutions and some of the factors that go into choosing which kind of solution is best for you. I know every time we talk about this, it is a it depends answer. Yeah. So we're going to have a it depends discussion and talk about what it depends on and just what those factors look like. So first, do you want to talk a little bit about the difference between off-the-shelf, custom, and hybrid solutions? Like, what does that mean, those terms?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with like the custom off the shelf. That to me represents more of a solution that's already ready to go and maybe just requires minimal configuration. And examples of that would be Microsoft's Dynamics applications. They have customer service, field service. They have a lot of different apps that they've pre-built with specific business use cases in mind, and they are feature-rich and really amazing applications. And if your business needs align with those, they're a great way to get started and just really hit the ground running. On the other side of the spectrum, Power Platform allows you to build on the same technology that Microsoft used to build those applications, your own custom apps and workflows. And really, you can kind of the sky's the limit. You can build whatever you want within that platform. Some of the cool features. I mean, we can dive in, I guess, more to some of the different parts of Power Platform maybe later in the call, but and then there's kind of that in-between space. One of the things that I really love about Power Platform and Dynamics is that whether you go one way or the other, you've got the ability to extend and customize what's already there, and add kind of your own flavor, your own layer on top of it. And so there's kind of a sweet spot there in the middle where you can leverage a lot of the cool features that Microsoft and all their engineering team has developed, and then you can again kind of really put your own flavor into the application and into your processes to make them yours. So I don't know if that sums it up satisfactorily.
Yeah, it's perfect. So there's a lot of flexibility in what you can do.
Exactly.
And it sounds like because you have off-the-shelf solutions, or at least off-the-shelf solutions that you can build off of in a hybrid solution, right? In a custom plus off-the-shelf solution way, you can also minimize maybe the amount of lift that it takes to build a solution because you can build based off of the off-the-shelf solution. Is that kind of the benefit of hybrid?
Yeah, and I mean, there's even another layer to it, to be honest. really you can build anything with Microsoft's low code UI. You've got Power Automate that allows you to build um, whatever automation workflows you want. There's low code ways to build business rules and different workflows right into your app, into the UI. And then sometimes there's also a need to actually roll up your sleeves and get into the code, right? And that can we'll talk, I think, a little bit more about like when you would decide one over the other. But the awesome part about the Power Platform is that it's really anyone that is maybe not a developer can jump in and start building and creating improved processes and workflows. And even if it's a small app, just for a few users, or an enterprise level app for hundreds or thousands of users, you can do that in the platform. It scales, and then again, back onto the whether you're doing it in a low code way or writing actual code, to create the user experience that you want. It really depends on what you want the user to experience, and how much effort you want to put into maintaining it. So there's a lot of decision points along the way, like we said, and that's where the it depends conversation shows up quite a bit. And it's been an interesting journey to really work with our stakeholders and figure out what is the best implementation, what's the best way to implement their processes so that they get the user experience that they want, and also the ability to control how much maintenance is going to be required in the long run. So
So it sounds like even within the custom space, this is what I'm hearing. You tell me if this is accurate. Even within the custom space, there's ways that you can do it that's not fully coding by hand the custom solution. There's like low code options, there's options that non-developers can use to customize their solution without it being a full like ground up solution as well. So even within the custom space, there's options of what you can
exactly,
do.
yeah, you can extend and add functionality without being a developer, for sure. Yeah, there's Power Automate cloud flows that like anybody can get in and start putting steps together of like, this is what I want my process to be, right? And you can connect right into your data, and as well as hundreds or maybe even thousands of other connectors are available for you to integrate with other systems. And so definitely blows the doors wide open for citizen developers to get their hands in and kind of start creating. In fact, it's been fun because in one of our projects at the Idaho Industrial Commission, the program manager there that is not really a technical person has started to learn the platform,
Mhm.
and he wants to be able to help do some of the maintenance, or write his own processes or some of those types of things. And so it's been fun to see him actually roll up his sleeves and start learning about how he can implement things and help maintain the platform that we've built for them.
Yeah,
So
for sure. I actually didn't even know that you could do that, and now I'm like, I should go and play and try to make my own
you should.
my own little application and see
You'll
what I could
be
do.
you'll be rolling in no time.
So when you go to modernize a legacy system, you're going into a new project
Right.
and deciding what you should do and understanding their workflows and things like that. What factors go into deciding which way you're going to go, whether you're going to go fully off the shelf, a custom solution, something in between? What kind of factors are you thinking about in that decision-making process?
Um, it's a great question, and I mean, of course, first and foremost, you got to just understand what their business model is, like what
Right.
their business processes and the requirements are, and that in and of itself is its own uh, challenge, right? Um, Often stakeholders know exactly what they want, and often they think they do, and then later down the road we come to realize, okay, they were close, and we needed to pivot and kind of take a different approach. Um, I mean, so really, like having good conversations to begin with about what we're up to creating is the first step, and then from there, it's knowing enough about the off the shelf solutions and what the features are, um, and to be able to pair it up well. As an example, we had a partner where we were working on developing a field service esque application, and they basically they needed a way to for people to go out into the field, do some inspections, and maybe schedule or plan their routes effectively, right? And so we were thinking, hey, that sounds a lot like Microsoft's field service app, and we started going down that path with them. And after some additional conversation and really like starting to understand a little bit better their processes and their needs, they had such a small operation that they didn't need all of the muscle that came with the field service
Mm.
app, because it does so much more than what they actually needed. And so we were able to build a simpler version of, definitely not as powerful, not as feature rich as Microsoft's field service app, but it met their needs, right? And so, um, we at that point didn't really have the full understanding of all the different features that were available and exactly what was needed. And so that was like an opportunity where we had a conversation and we pivoted and went a different way.
I do have a question about what you're talking about too with the field service app.
Okay.
What were the benefits in scaling it back from the off the shelf solution? Because obviously it's feature rich,
Yeah.
is what you're saying, and you scaled it back because they have a smaller operation. In my mind, from a almost a user experience perspective, it's better because you wouldn't end up with so many features you're not going to use, which can confuse people on what they should do and where they should go. But I don't know from a technical perspective or maybe from a maintenance perspective if there were other benefits in scaling it back to what their operation actually needed.
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, One of the things that I think is one of the biggest decision points there is like how close to that solution um, are you? How many of the actual features do you need, and are the other ones going to get in the way of anything
Mm,
that you don't want or you don't need? Like, are you going to have to disable them in some way or override them? Like how much baggage, for lack of a better word,
mm.
is going to come with that solution that you don't need or want, right? And so, being able to have a clear picture of that and know how to handle that is definitely a big decision point.
One of the things that we've talked about
Yeah.
in the past, I know we haven't talked about it right here, but we've talked about the benefits of Power Apps and Dynamic 365 and all of that on the maintenance lift on the different agencies because you have Microsoft backing it. And it's just a lot easier to maintain in the long run. It's a lot easier to scale and maintain over a long period of time
Hmm.
compared to a lot of legacy systems that they already have. In this case, when you have it scaled back in this way, does that affect the maintenance of it too, or is it kind of equal maintenance from the off the shelf feature heavy version that you kind of have to
Hmm.
disable features versus the scaled back version?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of the awesome parts about the platform is that Microsoft supports the platform, like the infrastructure, all the auto scaling, like all the stuff that you would normally have to handle if you were doing a full stack application. Like that's one of the huge benefits that you get through like the licensing and
Mm,
the cost of using the platform. And I think it actually turns out to be more cost, you know, more affordable to go this route than to have a full engineering team that's needing to manage and maintain the security and all of the infrastructure that goes into supporting an application of this nature, right? Um, and so there's a certain level of maintenance that Microsoft is going to do regardless, whether you're on like the custom off the shelf solution like a Dynamics app, or if you've built like from the ground up in the platform your own custom application. Um, of course, anything that you build custom, you're kind of responsible for the maintenance of, right?
right.
So if you build any additional processes or write additional code or plugins to supplement what's already in the system, then that portion of the application is maintained internally, right,
Right.
by the dev team. And then again, kind of the platform and any of the out of the box functionality, Microsoft is constantly uh, pushing updates and maintaining. So you get the benefit of that. And then only having to maintain the stuff that you have created in that extra layer that we talked about.
Okay. Is that one of the decision points then that comes into how much customization? Well, partly it's, as you said, how much customization is needed because it's based on their current processes and workflows and size of the operation and things like that is what you discussed before. But when it comes to the maintenance side of it, is that another decision point of how much customization you're going to put into it? Is how much maintenance they're going to have to maintain in house, or are they going to need an external vendor? Like if we built it and we're going to have to maintain it, how much that's going to be for them as well? Or like, is that also a decision
Yeah,
point that goes into the amount of customization?
absolutely. And that's part of the conversation we have with every partner is okay. So uh, there's kind of two sides to this coin, right? There's the how much maintenance is it going to be, and also on the other side is like what's the lift, what's the additional benefit that you get from going custom. So it's kind of a every time it's a conversation of the cost benefit analysis of what is it going to cost us to have this be a custom solution that we are
Right.
um, building and kind of maintaining in our own solution layer, and then what's the like is there an added user experience gain or like performance gains, right? So
Mm-hmm.
typically like something in a low code power automate flow, it's like a what we call an asynchronous typically process, meaning it kind
Mm-hmm.
of runs behind the scenes. And sometimes the power automate servers and steps are run on like shared resources, and so
Mm,
sometimes they kind of get queued up and you have to wait
I
a
see.
second, right, for them to fully process. And so you might not get that instantaneous um, response, or yeah, you might not get as quick of a response. But like if something's just needing to happen in the background, that's totally not a problem, right?
Right.
Um, but if you're on the page and you're clicking a button and you expect it to refresh, that might not be the best solution, right? And you might want to. People
Right.
might over time get really frustrated with that, and
If you need to generate something right now and
exactly
then you have to wait because it's queued kind of thing.
right.
Okay. The project that you worked on, Iris, I say worked on, the applications that you built for workers' comp was in Power Apps.
Hmm.
And you talked about how it was integrating across multiple departments within the Industrial Commission.
Right.
So I would imagine, and I don't know if this is accurate, I would imagine that part of what would go into that decision as well is what other workflows exist around it or systems that it would need to integrate with or live within that kind of ecosystem, I
Hmm.
guess, of the agency. Is that something else that is considered a lot when thinking about do we need to make this custom, or is that more just looking at what integrations Power Apps has?
Well, the cool thing about the Power Platform, so we did have several both kind of internal connections as well as external data feeds or integrations with other systems that we needed to include in that uh, project, right?
Mm,
And so, like for example, they interface with the state's accounting agency, like the controller's office. They need to be able to send and receive financial information back and forth. They also had feeds from other third-party vendors where they would get like a file or something that they would need to ingest into their system. And so we had different integrations with throughout the app that would pull those data feeds and be able to um, update the internal data accordingly. There's also APIs like RESTful APIs that we built. So and then within the app, there's kind of a handoff between departments that would happen. And so they had their business was handling workers comp related uh, compliance and oversight throughout the state. And so whether that was on the employer side, making sure that they were in compliance, or on the claimant side and the insurance companies and
right.
medical providers, they all kind of had different roles and different interfaces with the system. Um, and things would shift as, like a claim came in, they would have to transfer it from the benefits department over to like the rehab department or the
Hmm.
adjudication department if there was some uh, some mediation needed between providers and claimants, and insurance companies. And um, anyway, so it was an interesting challenge to figure out how um, to meet all their needs. But I think the Power Platform actually played a huge role in making that a seamless process because really, like, we had all their individual apps built on the same environment, same Dataverse database, and um, so it basically gave each department a view into the data that made the most sense for them and the ability to interact with what they needed, right?
And
And
their
so
own feature set in their own app,
exactly,
essentially.
yeah, yeah, and we actually have a couple, you know, really customizable frameworks for some of the core functionality that all of them used.
Mm.
And so they kind of had a unique, not a unique, a consistent experience throughout the app of like how to store and manage and generate documents, right? And how to send correspondence out to different, parties. But then, within their own applications, they had their own processes for whatever needs that they had within that department. So, yeah, it's kind of cool to be able to see like both system-wide processes as well as the smaller ones within smaller corners of the application, and have them all play nicely together and in the
While
same
everyone
application.
can fulfill the role
Exactly.
that they need to fulfill while it's all playing nicely
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. That's awesome. Um, I do have another question too about I guess, because when we go into projects, obviously everyone has the budget they can work with. They
Right.
have set timelines sometimes of like when they need something done by because there's like specific dates or, whatever. Does that play into as well the decisions of should we just go with off the shelf for customization if you have like a tighter timeline and budget versus a longer one that you can make it more fit to their needs? Um, fit like a glove a little bit
Sure.
more.
Yeah.
Uh, does that go into that decision as well?
I think it's always a part of the conversation, because depending on the complexity of the process, like it might be faster to implement it as a full code solution,
Mm-hmm.
in a solution layer that's code, and it might be faster to do it in like a low code version, like Power Automate. And it really depends. You can spin something up in Power Automate in a matter of minutes. Sometimes we'll have a process that we need to do some data updates or something, and within like 5 minutes we can have a flow up and running
Yeah.
and doing what it needs to do. And so it's really cool that you can spin stuff up that quickly. And then the more complex you get, like sometimes it just makes sense it becomes much easier to maintain actually by doing it as code. So again, it's the it depends conversation. But again, that's one of the reasons that we love working with the agencies, because we can have those conversations, we can help them see both sides, and we really, I think one of the things that we have tried really hard to do is to not just speak in, I don't know else to call it other than nerd language or geek,
Yeah.
right? So, like we have a team of business analysts that interfaces really well with our partners, and even our technical team is they're more along the lines of what we call in the Microsoft sphere, like functional consultants. They kind of have a foot in both camps so that they can have those conversations and kind of translate what the requirements are into what's actually needed. And so it's always a fun conversation because you peel back that layer of the onion and you find out something new, and it
Yeah.
changes, like, okay, yeah, actually now with that piece of information we actually should go this other way.
Yeah.
So
Because it's different in every agency, and it's different
it
in
is.
every agency in every state. Like if you talk to
Right.
if you talk to the Department of Ed in Idaho, it's completely different than the Department of Ed in Washington or
Exactly.
whatever.
Well, and they might have, like, they do the same types of things, but they have their own way of wanting to have the process flow, right?
For
And
sure.
so, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Honestly, it's one of the things that I really love about what we do is I feel like we don't ever go into agencies with a solution that we're like, here you go. This is what you need.
This is, yeah,
There's a lot of conversations that happen to make sure that whatever you're getting is exactly what works for you.
right.
And we just know the tools like Power Apps and Dynamics 365 to be able to make those well for you,
Yeah,
and fit what you need better.
yeah.
So,
And I think at the same time, like, we certainly have modular pieces of things that are
yeah.
applicable in many, many areas. In fact, like I was talking a little bit about our correspondence and document storage solutions that we've built here in the Power Platform. We've used those in several projects now, and they're very flexible and empower people and agencies to be able to do things that are not quite possible out of the box. There's just some limitations that they run into, and so we kind of supercharge some of the out of the box functionality for
Mm-hmm.
like document generation, and it kind of is that cherry on top, that makes it closes the loop and gives them exactly what they wanted, without having to go with any crazy, you know, additional
For
costs
sure.
for getting to where they need to be.
Or at least you can just do minor tweaks, right? You have
Exactly.
the module, I guess, that you have built that you can put in a lot of places, and if one of them needs a small tweak, you
Hmm.
can build off of that for the small tweak and not have to build it
Exactly.
all the way back up again, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So what other things go into that? Those are the things that I can think of off the top of my head that we've talked about before, but I don't know what other decisions go into, especially on a technical side, because I'm not as familiar with that side of what goes into that decision-making process.
Well, I think a lot of it also has to do like with, if there's any security or compliance requirements that are needed, and if one approach uh, addresses those better, then that's certainly a big piece of the decision making tree.
So when it comes to Iris,
Hmm.
I know that there was some disparate data um, within the agency, and part of the process of building these applications that all talk to each other and can go across departments is centralizing all that data
Right.
for the applications to be able to talk to each other effectively.
Hmm.
What did that process look like, and how did that play into the decision of the way that you built the applications for them?
Well, I mean the data. Um, that's a really good question. Um, so in that particular project, there was, like you mentioned, 6 or 7 different apps that had each their own database, and so they connected to each other here and there. But a lot of the data was spread across them and duplicated in different places. And so
Mm.
yeah, there's a huge effort to consolidate and bring things into one data store where they could kind of share ownership of some of the data. And the I think the beautiful part about Dataverse, which is kind of the underlying data layer of Power Platform, is that um, it's, I mean, you can do a simple data structure in there. And if you've got a wild and hairy one that needs to be more layered and more complex, it can support any of those, right? And so, with Iris, we had, um, like I said, we had an employer compliance department, and we had a benefits department, and we had an adjudication department, a rehab department, a financial department, um, and they all had kind of their own data needs, kind of built on top of um, kind of a core data structure. And so, again, for each of those applications, we were able to extend that data structure and and grow it into the needs of what was required for that particular department, while still maintaining kind of a core, simple, unified data structure for the organization as a whole. Um, and the ability, like I said, to just extend that data structure in a new layer or a new module, is really a cool capability of the Power Platform. And that's you know um, and beyond that, even like we had, the different user groups within the commission.
Hmm.
They all had kind of their own needs and requirements for even interacting with that shared data model, right? And that's not to mention the external constituents that needed to access the data as well. And so that's where even Power Pages comes into play. It's a way to build uh, external user facing web portals for people to be able to authenticate and log in and see only the data that they're authorized to see, and not have to do it in a completely separate application or stack or uh, environment, right? You can kind of build that all in the same environment. And even there in Power Pages, you've got that ability to kind of use more of the out of the box functionality that gets you up and running quickly. Or if you really want to customize it, we've had other projects where we've done like fully custom websites in Power Pages, and they look beautiful and function really well. And so you get that added benefit of the infrastructure that Microsoft provides, and the ability to go either low code or pro code, as we say, even in those external facing web portals. Um,
This is like a side note a little bit, but doesn't Copilot integrate with Power Pages? I think I've used Copilot to make a Power Pages a time or two.
Yeah, and one of the I think the coolest things about what Microsoft is doing with Copilot is it's not just like you're bolting on a chatbot to your website,
Mhm.
right? Um, they're really doing a lot to weave AI, if you want it to be,
Yeah,
throughout your application. So you can have agents kind of doing sub processes or taking things on or helping, summarize data for your internal workers. There's lots of opportunities to use Copilot and the Copilot suite of tools. Like, I mean, Copilot means like pretty much everything is called Copilot. But there's so many different versions of like a Copilot tool or an
yeah.
agent within
I use it
Power
all the time to
Platform.
just gather information where I'm
Yeah,
like, get all the documents related to this, and then it'll just bring it all out,
right.
which is super nice.
And that's even one of the cool parts about like you brought Copilot up, so I just want to mention it. Like part of what Microsoft has, they've got several different agents for helping you build even like your data model or um, your processes. They
Mhm.
have different agents that will help you as you are a citizen developer, kind of getting started, learn how to build some of those more complex pieces of an application without really having to understand everything that goes on under the hood. Um, I think those are better more for like POCs than
Yeah,
like an enterprise level application. I think it's still good to use that and leverage that to be faster and having some experienced architecture behind that process is still important so that you don't
for sure.
because it's easy also to paint yourself into a corner pretty quick if you don't think about like
Understand it.
all the pieces of how the platform works. So there's again, that's another decision point in kind of figuring out whether to go one way or the other as far as off the shelf or custom.
For sure. When it comes to the Dataverse, because I'm just not as familiar with it, um, is it also kind of a like there's an off the shelf structure or a custom structure? What does that
Yeah.
look like within Dataverse?
Every Dataverse environment comes with some of the out of the box tables like accounts and contacts and
Mm,
tasks and emails and like all those out of the box activities that just are pretty much essential to every application.
yeah,
Um, and then again, you can create your own custom entities to extend that data structure, right? And so it can be as simple as you need it to be. And if you really want to record like intricate details and get really I always try to reflect as much as possible reality in my data structures,
yeah,
and so it makes it easier to understand and to track. And so, but again, like you can really create whatever structure is required, whatever relationships are required between the different tables. It can be, um, like I said, a very complex data structure to support your needs. So.
yeah. As big or as small as you need it to be.
Exactly. Another thing that is really good to take into account is like Microsoft has, especially with their Dynamics applications, they have some uh, specific tables, right, that they have created that come along with their licensing. And so, one example of that is their case table, right? And if you have um, if what a case represents for you aligns really well with what Microsoft has built, kind of
Mm,
in their solution, then man, you can enable that and you're up and running and you have a system that's working for you and allowing you to be able to track those cases quickly, right? With very little effort. Um, now, if what a case represents to you is maybe not quite the same thing as
yeah,
what Microsoft has built into their case management app, um, then it might make sense for you to build your own case entity, right? And to build your own processes around what your case flow is. So that, again, kind of coming back to that conversation of, there's all these features that are amazing that Microsoft has built into their case management app. And if yours does not align, your process does not align with what's in that uh, generic, I don't know, maybe generic is not the right word, but that commercial version of what a case management is,
right.
you may be better off, like I said, starting with your own case table and building your processes off of that. So you don't have to, again, go through with a scalpel and figure out which features you want to keep and which ones you don't, and whether it really aligns. Because it's kind of like the square peg round hole. Like if there's something that really aligns with what you're trying to achieve and to do, then it's great, to use that functionality that already exists. But if you try to then change what was, one thing into something else, then you might run into challenges later, especially, there might be updates that Microsoft releases down the road to improve their case management
Yeah.
that really conflict with what yours would end up being. And so really taking a good close look, and that's what we did with the Industrial Commission. Like we ended up, they're a government agency, and I think the case management and a lot of Microsoft's applications are geared a little bit more towards commercial businesses and
Mhm.
their needs, their marketing, like lead generation and and customer service needs. And we found that at least the government agencies we've worked with don't operate quite like a commercial business,
Mm.
right? Like they have different processes and requirements,
Right.
and so we ended up, like I said, trying to creating our own case table for what they define as a case.
Does it depend on how? Because you have square peg, round hole. What if it's like a round hole and a oval peg? Do you know what I
Like
mean? Like
that.
if
You're
it's like
talking
just a
about that
little
video
off.
where on TikTok where they're like, "Oh yeah, the triangle fits into the square hole."
Oh yeah, and it's like on all the shapes. um. Yeah, because I wonder because, and I wasn't the developer for this project, so I don't know if we used Dynamics 365 or if we just like fully custom built it. But I was on a small project for pardons and parole,
Mhm.
and we used Power Apps for it, and they just wanted a small like tracking system just for everyone on parole and like the bonds they had to pay to go cross state lines and
Right.
things like that. And then they were making all their reports manually in Excel,
Mhm.
which is a pain.
Yeah.
And so they just wanted them like a ready to export dashboard
Yeah.
with all the stuff that they could just send off
Mhm.
when they need to. So it's pretty small, but there are some specific tweaks that had to be made. So when it was originally made, there was like a basic table with a basic report. Like it was kind of like, it's not that it was nothing, but there was like the essentials kind of
Yeah.
there. And then we just tweaked it based on what pardons and parole specifically needed.
Mhm.
And the specific edge cases that they face. Like some people are on parole for life. And so they just have kind of an odd case compared to other people that are only on parole temporarily, for example. Um, so I don't know if because of that, if that would make sense when it's only a small difference to still do Dynamics 365 and then do a small change, or at that point is it just easier to do the custom because you have to override so much within Dynamics
Yeah.
365?
Yeah, and I think for me the question comes down to whether you're changing behavior or you're extending it,
Mm.
right? And I think that's probably what I would say is the key decision point. It's very similar with like development practices, like um, you typically classes are open for extension but closed for modification, and so I mean that's again super nerdy, but typically you don't want to change the behavior of something. You don't want to change something into something that it's not. But if you want to say, hey, I want this thing to be able to do just a little bit more, then that's certainly like that's the strength of the platform, honestly.
Okay.
Like one of them anyway that I really love. It's like you can add to, right, and trying to take away from is a little more challenging, right? If there's something that's managed by Microsoft or another vendor, right? Like it's a little bit more challenging to undo than it is to
To add on.
Exactly.
So it's like if this is yes, this works for us and we need it to do this too,
Yeah.
then it makes sense. But if you're
Exactly.
like, half of this doesn't work, we need to change exactly what it does, then you might as well just do, like, custom's going to be easier in the long run, really.
Exactly. It'll be easier
Okay.
to maintain.
Okay, I see. So when we talk about customization,
Yeah.
I'd like to just discuss a little bit the nuance between customization and configuration.
Okay.
Can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the Power Platform, in Dynamics, there's a lot of processes that are already built into the system, and with those low-code tools, you can add new processes, right? You can adjust the existing ones if they're extensible, and I think a lot of that would be probably considered configuration. Um, a lot of what we also do within our solutions that we've created is try to make them even more configurable in the sense of like you don't have to actually open up the process, but you go to like a config page and change some settings,
Mm.
right? So that you don't have to go get into the underlying process or the Cloudflow or the the different sections of the app to change behavior. And we do that we try to do that whether it's being configured,
Hmm.
via like a low code tool, or if we're doing full on customization with code, like writing plugins and APIs, um, and I think that's been a really powerful way for us to give some of our partners um, really configurable solutions. Again, whether it's written in code like C Sharp or JavaScript,
Right.
or if it's done in Power Automate or um, workflows or anything internal to the app. So, and one thing that I guess I want to call out on that is that I know like customization is kind of a four-letter word to a lot of government agencies, and we started out with our Iris project, the Industrial Commissions project, with the goal of only low code,
Mm.
like that they wanted it only low code, um, and we did our very best to do that and to honor that request, and found, after a, a little bit of effort, that some of the processes they had, like the requirements were pretty complex. And like, I think we talked on this a little bit, but like sometimes it's just much more efficient and maintainable to write like a really well written small plugin
Mm.
than it is to have this monstrosity of a Cloudflow that
Yeah.
because sometimes with low code, you sacrifice a little bit the ability to do exactly what you want for like the drag and drop UI and the ability to get in and do some of that stuff using the visual tools as opposed to being a developer and just being able to write exactly what code you want, right? And so, and on the other hand, a poorly written plugin is a nightmare,
Yeah.
right? So, so I think it's important to like the customization. I would say is probably more along the lines of writing custom code. One of the things that I love too about the platform is you can write custom components. You can create custom
Mm.
components that then can be applied throughout the application, and you can write that in React, and anyway, so it's a really cool way to again extend the platform without changing any of the underlying
Right.
technology or code. And Microsoft gives this really cool way for us to apply these custom components into a model driven, low code app, and to adjust the look and feel of things that way as well.
I would imagine from the configuration pieces that you're speaking to as well, when you talked about how you can just change the one setting,
Yeah.
um, does that make it more sustainable over time too? Because workflows evolve over years,
Yeah.
and you can go in and change the setting when it needs to be changed to something else. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe right now we're not going to use it, but then 5 years down the line, we're like, actually, that setting would have been nice. We can just
Yeah.
go in and turn it on and just have it more. Does that play into that?
It does, and I think a lot of it is, sometimes it's easier to develop it that way, to be honest, because
Mm.
you end up repeating yourself less if you
Yeah.
can make things really customizable. And so, I think it's in the best interest of everyone to try and do that wherever possible. Um, and sometimes it takes a lot of forethought too. Like if you don't think that far down the road, like you said, like you know, hindsight's 2020, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes you don't think about like, oh, that could have been configurable, a little bit more configurable until after it's already done, and then it's some tech debt that we come back and address at a different
Right.
stage. But we've done those kinds of things. Like in fact, with Iris, we developed certain things for like the physical department a certain way, and realized that we had kind of slightly missed the mark, and so we came back and refactored it and rewrote the process to use more configuration than we did the first attempt, and it made a huge difference. I really love doing these discovery calls. We do them with agencies all the time, and it's really awesome because like we've seen what works really well for these agencies. We've seen kind of what stalls the project and what really helps us to deliver value early and get them the results that they really are so desperately after.
Yeah. And it's only a 30-minute conversation.
Yeah.
So if you want to start your discovery process with a 30-minute conversation, go to intimetech.com and we will look forward to talking to you.
Seeing what like a process was because of the constraints in a previous system,
Ah.
and being able to like see like, okay, so why do you do it that way? And they're like, that's just how we do it. And
Mm-hmm.
then and it's a painful process, you know what I mean? And so being able to like see those cow paths, for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
and be able to show a different approach that will make their lives drastically better. Like
Mm-hmm.
like I love those opportunities. Like just
100%.
being able to just help improve processes as we bring people into a more modern platform, and it really changes lives, especially of those internal workers. But
Yeah.
it has a cascading effect, I think, and you know, as I think we say a lot that we, like as far as government agencies, they serve the public and we serve them, right? And so it's like it's really like our way of helping to serve the public and create like a better experience in government, right? And
100%.
so anyway,
Yeah, no, I agree. And honestly, it really is my favorite part of the whole process in any project is the discovery at the beginning. And we start with a 30-minute conversation, right, of just talking about what are your needs, what's going on, what's your basic workflows, and then we dive in a lot deeper
yeah,
into making sure that we understand everything. But it is my favorite part of the process, partly just because I like learning.
yeah,
And there's a lot of agencies that I assume what they do. I'm like, oh, the Department of Ed does this.
hmm,
And then you go and talk to them and you're like, there's so much more under the hood than I expected. And it's just so fun to learn about what they actually do
hmm,
on the day-to-day basis more than just the umbrella of what they do.
yeah,
Um, and then seeing their workflows, like you said, and why they do it that way is just really eye-opening. It's fascinating to learn about.
hmm,
And then at the end of the project, being able to see the effect that it has on making their lives just so much easier. And it really is like the benefit of state and local government. Like you said, it really has a ripple effect because they're state and local government.
yeah,
And there's a lot that they're expected to be able to deliver. And sometimes their workflows prevent them from being able to deliver as much as they want to.
yeah,
And being able to work with them and modernize what that could look like really spreads out into the community and really helps the staff that work there too, that are passionate about what they're doing.
right.
Um, so it's really exciting. Well, I've really enjoyed talking to you, just like a discovery process. I just
Yeah,
like learning about what you do too and learning a little bit more about what exists. So I appreciate you taking the time and talking to me.
yeah. Thanks for having me. It's been great. I always love a good conversation. So.
Thank you for watching this video about custom versus off-the-shelf versus hybrid solutions with Power Platform and Dynamics 365. If you want to schedule your 30-minute discovery call, go to intimetech.com and we look forward to meeting you.
Thanks for watching this In Time Tech podcast. If you'd like to learn more about what we can offer you, please visit our website, intimetech.com, where you'll be able to see the different capabilities and technologies we could provide you in your business. Also, don't forget to subscribe and follow us to get more amazing content like this. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.